Yo, Sleepy Sheepy here. Today we're going to be running a really fun dexterity build, and this is going to be one that just totally maximizes your edgelordness. So this is going to be running the Sword of Night, which is indeed very edgy. It has a unique moveset. The R2 comes out similar to the Serpent Bone Blade, and we also have this Ash of War Witching Hour Slash, which can be charged for this really big swing. Otherwise you can do the uncharged, which comes out pretty fast and has great forward momentum, and it also goes through shield. So if you're up against a player that's running a thrusting shield, then this will be really nice. We also have in our offhand the Claws of Night, and these are also super fun. The heavy attacks come out as 6 projectiles, so the range is not super long, but it can be nice to get chip damage. And then you also have access to Scatter Shot Throw, which does a ton of bleed buildup. It will often result in headshots, sometimes on multiple opponents, and it's really nice. So the moveset overall is not that great. You don't have a ton of poise damage with it. The light attacks are probably going to be your best for just like raw damage output, but sometimes it can be so nice to just have this little bit of chip damage that comes out really quickly, and it reminds me a lot of the Crow Quills in Dark Souls 3. And just kind of having these two together, you come out with these nice kind of mix-ups of slashes, and I find them to be quite nice. So as for our stat spread, we're going to be running this at level 139. We'll have 59 Vigor, 39 Endurance, 20 Strength, and 65 Dex, and that's with Millicent's Prosthesis. Millicent's Prosthesis and the Rotwing Sword Insignia are going to boost our successive attacks. Given the moveset of these things, you'll be getting a lot of successive attacks, especially with this slash. And then we also have the Shard of Alexander to further boost our Ash of War. We'll hit 101 poise with the Greaves of Solitude, the Gauntlets of Solitude, Knights Cavalry, and the Helm of Solitude, all extremely edgy, which is important. And now on to the best part, which is going to be this ridiculous 5-hit combo that you can get pretty consistently. So that's going to be a running heavy into L2, and that functions as a roll catch, and then you get a true combo out of the last slash of your L2. If that poise breaks, then you get at least one slash for free, and the backswing comes out so fast you'll frequently get that as well to turn it into a 6-hit combo. So I believe that this is somewhat dependent on your opponent's poise, but if you do get the running heavy and manage to connect all of the L2 as a roll catch, then you will get the 5th hit for free, and sometimes the 6th. So yeah, this feels extremely strong. I would say that makes up for some of the kind of lacklusterness of this weapon, where you get a B scaling with dexterity. It's split damage between physical and magic, and as with the Claws of Night, they're both split between physical and magic. So the AR is not wild, but that's okay. You do have this really fun combo. I would say it's strongest in the arena. It's not quite as strong in invasions, but yeah, let's go ahead and see how it looks. If you wouldn't mind considering subscribing, I would appreciate it, but let's see how it works in the invasions and duels. Our first pair of opponents are going to be running a Twin Blade as well as some Perfume. However, the host will not always be running the Perfume. They're going to swap over to Stormblade pretty quickly, so we're going to need to be looking out for those projectiles, especially if we're focusing on the Phantom here. So we're going to go ahead and throw out some R2s with the claws, and those are nice just because they're pretty non-committal. Like, you can go for kind of a fadeaway backwards jump and go for an R2 and still get out some damage while still being out of range of most of their attacks. So our opponent goes for the funny Porcupine Crucible Ash of War, or Incantation rather, and we do manage to get a running heavy on that player. We eventually throw out some Scatter Shot, and that does the last bit of HP we needed to do. So there we can just kind of appreciate how nice Scatter Shot is as an Ash of War. It comes out super fast, the range is pretty good, and honestly it just feels like, you know, a great way to just punish somebody that's running away. Unless they're really paying attention, they're going to have a hard time escaping it. So this host throws out some more Perfume. It's kind of a bold strategy to be running Perfume, but it does have the potential to do massive damage, so I'm still kind of respecting it, especially the Lightning one. I think that has the potential to one-shot on the right build. But our opponent here does decide to pull out a light greatsword, and we're going to two-hand our weapon at this point, and we're kind of hoping to set up the combo that we'd like. You know, those sweet 6 hits is really nice, so we're going to go ahead and physic up, just kind of get back into position, go for that running heavy. It can be kind of difficult to get the running heavy, but here we do get it. We get the Yeah, full combo. So, yeah, like if you're in a one-on-one situation and somebody gets hit by that running heavy, the follow-up attacks are just so deadly. And it can be rolled properly. I've definitely had opponents that were able to get out of it, especially if they're running higher poise. It seems like they're able to avoid some of the subsequent hits, but if you do take the full combo, it is quite devastating, especially on a build like this. It is worth noting that you can also boost that Ash of War a little bit with the Godfrey icon, which boosts charge skills, but for me, I have found the uncharged version to be a little bit better. So next up we have a group of 3, and they are extremely aggressive. So if we stop and turn around to do anything, we're probably going to take a bunch of damage. And also if we just run out of stamina, we're going to take some damage. So we're going to go ahead and throw some sleep pots as a turn and burn. And that's just kind of a way to alleviate the pressure and then also let this big fella here come in and help us out a little bit. We throw another sleep pot and that gives us enough time to get running heavy. No need for a 6-hit combo. That player was already very low, and we just start looking out for the Radon Sword's Ash of War. So the gravity pull does pull us in the first time, but we don't take damage on the subsequent hits, and we do completely roll the gravity attack the second time. Now, this Co is not doing a good job of navigating 2 players. They're probably not an invader, which is fair, and we do manage to get just like a very nice running heavy for the finish on that player as well. And now we get to play against this Rune-Arc Toast here, and unfortunately, due to the hyper armor, our combo is not really going to be great. If we go for a running heavy and they decide to mash, then they will take priority over our Ash of War. So that's something to be aware of, is, you know, if your opponent is really poisey, or if your opponent is running something with a lot of hyper armor like a 2-handed greatsword or a colossal weapon, then your combo can be completely shut down just by a regular light attack. So the host starts running away. We're gonna go for a bit of a chase down here. They're not really going in the right direction. It's kind of tricky. We're noticing that they're not mashing too hard, so we go for our Ash of War and then they immediately start mashing, but before they're able to heal, we do get the punish with our super edgy blade. So here, going for our Ash of War probably would have been beneficial in that moment where we could get our damage through the shield, but we just went for a regular heavy attack, and now we're just trying to bait our opponents with the claws, also accumulate some bleed buildup. Neither of these weapons have massive innate bleed, but the scatter shot definitely does a great job of building it up fast. And I'd say the claws as an offhand for a weapon that has higher bleed than the Sword of Night would be a great way to go. That would be a really strong setup, just because you'd be able to throw scatter shot anytime you think their bleed meter is close, and you'd probably get the bleed proc. So that's an idea for a future build probably, but here we go ahead and start aggressing the host a little bit because the Phantom is busy with PvE, and here we didn't quite finish them off, but gravity did the rest. And as the Phantom finishes off the PvE, we have a little bit of time to go for our Ash of War, and there we can see it just going right through the shield and doing a bunch of damage. So even though the host was already gone at that point, we do get a nice little element of the showcase there. So next up we have a player that's running a bit of a bear costume, which I do appreciate. They're going to be, I'm not 100% sure if that's the Smith script dagger in their offhand, but it looks kind of like it, and we'll need to potentially be worried about projectiles coming our way. We also have a host that's running a very high poise damage setup, something that would probably make a lot of sense if they're going to go for a lot of jumping L1s, which I imagine they are going to go for. This Phantom here has now pulled out the light greatsword, and we're going to need to back off a bit, just try to find a good space for it, and we actually do manage to get the fully charged version of our Ash of War off. So it's not super easy to pull that off. Sometimes you can do it around corners because the charge part doesn't really make any noise and the area of effect is quite large, but it's difficult to pull off just in the middle of a fight. But we'll see it used to some good effect throughout this showcase, so definitely stay tuned for some big hits there. Our opponents are really hot and heavy here, so this is the moment that I was talking about. You go for a sleep pot and you go for the fully charged Ash of War, and it's great if you have 2 players in the mix and you can get like over 1,000 damage on both of them. So yeah, it hits quite hard, and we do end up getting that player, but the host was able to kind of reheal and reset. We're going to skip ahead a little bit just because there wasn't too much to notice in between, and eventually we do get the chase down, going for the combo again, but they don't have enough HP to let it get shown off. So Next up, we have a player that gets stuck in this little area that can be kind of scary to fall into because you need to jump out of it, and in that moment we got a backstab grab. Otherwise we would have potentially been able to keep them down there with us forever because we could just anti-air them anytime they tried to jump out of there. So that was kind of the idea, but unfortunately the backstab grab just kind of ruined the whole plan, and then we got hit by Taker's Flame. So we definitely need to look out for all the Ashes of War coming our way. The players aren't like super optimized, I would say, in terms of their HP pools, but you know, the potential for anyone to do a ton of damage regardless of their skill level is quite high in Elden Ring, which is one of the reasons I feel like it does cater to a larger player base than perhaps it has the reputation for. But that said, we begin to chase down on this player with the heavy thrusting sword. The host with Taker's Flame is also doing a good job of just randomly throwing out their Ash of War. I get punished for a sleep pot, and we do need to back up a little bit. We'd like to get some HP back, and we'd also like to get some FP back, just because a lot of the best parts of this build are going to be focused on our L2 button. The scatter shot is super nice to have, and obviously the Ash of War, as you can see right there, is just lovely. So that really gets this Phantom here on the back foot. I would say they didn't have a great connection with me, so we can see a lot of hits just, you know, kind of going through them. We are getting some Phantom buildup of bleed in the mix, but the chase down is quite a bit harder than we'd like. So in moments like that, it could be nice to have a reverse grip blade or something like that as just a soft swap or even a hard swap, and that could be a good way to get chase downs on players that have a bit of a bad connection. And here we go for just an uncharged version of our Ash of War, and we do get the finish there and come out with a victory. So next up we have somebody else who's doing a different style of edgelord, where they just kind of stand there without any clothes on and then wait for their Phantom to pop out of the corner. Fortunately, we don't take much damage. We're enjoying Scattershot in this because the host has very little armor on, which means we're more likely to get a quick bleed proc. We do need to look out for Taker's Flame, but we're still able to get the Estus Punish on the Phantom, and now we can focus on the other edgelord in the mix. So we're going to go for our Ash of War, and yeah, that just kind of eliminates this opponent quite quickly. The choice to wear no armor is going to be problematic for anyone that's encountering some sort of weapon with status buildup. So yeah, we kind of saw that in that moment there. So our next group of three here is going to be somebody turtling, somebody just kind of bopping around with a couple halberds, and a host that likes to cast spells. We're going to go ahead and finish off one of the Phantoms there pretty quickly and just kind of reset back to neutral, see if we can bait them forward through the level. Unfortunately, we have one of the worst free aims in the history of Elden Ring, but we do try to make up for it with a second locked on pot throw that does connect. However, we do take kind of a bad trade in that moment, so having better positioning, I would say, in that moment so that we couldn't get hit by some spells would have been preferable, but yeah, we're going to still just kind of keep running with it. We're going for some of the claws just because we feel like the recovery time on them is good enough to be able to avoid some spells. We go for Scattershot and almost eliminate that player in a single Ash of War. We do need some follow-up swings with the claws, but it's, you know, totally fine. They only had like 90 HP left, and now we can focus on this host here who's doing a good job of just going for like wild turn and burns, and we're going to get them cornered in just a moment, and they're going to go for Carrion Slicer to great effect. So we get them so close to death. Probably going for one more scatter shot would have been good, but here we end up actually in a pretty bad spot, and I'm not sure if the tracking on my first claw swing was just like off or if there was some latency issue, but the first claws did not connect and the second one did, but we were kind of planning in our in our mind, just seeing our HP bar like get diminished. We were planning on getting that poise break, and when we didn't, it meant that we nearly died. So moments like that are pretty terrifying, and it's unclear if it's just like tracking or latency, but we are able to kind of reset back, and now this host is enjoying BHS, which you know, is a good way to counter some of our little dagger throws. And we're going to move on to the duel portion of the showcase. So this first player really appreciated the combo potential with this weapon. And this is actually a very good player. I've lost to them many times, but here we hit them with the running attack, followed up with the L2, and we get the true combo into the light attack, and then they just completely stop playing. So it is not a full true combo, like all the hits are not, but if you do get the roll catch, it is nasty, especially if you haven't gotten the roll timing down, and I think we saw a little bit of a knowledge check there. So next up we have Duel with 2 Gifts, who is somebody I play often and always enjoy fighting. They're going to be running a light greatsword, and they're using it quite well, but here we're going to go for our combo, and that allows us to very much catch up on health and then win the duel. So yeah, we got the 6 hits on that one, and that's up against like a good player. So next up, we're going to be seeing somebody just get flawless out of the combo. Not all the duels are like this, but many of them are. Our next opponent here is going to be running 2 daggers, which are interesting. They do a lot of damage. We're going to go ahead and throw Scattershot out and get the phantom hits, but no damage in that moment. We know they're going to probably be pretty aggressive with the daggers. Obviously, the multiple swings come out quite quickly. And here we avoid their parry attempts, get a bleed loss proc, but it's not actually going to be enough. And here we just go for jumping heavy and catch them out of the air with one of the throwing daggers. So that works out pretty nicely for us. And we can move on to our next one, which is going to be a player running a great spear. This is, I believe, one of the Mesmer spears. So we're going to have to look out for a pretty long Ash of War, but we get in a number of quick hits, we get our running heavy, and here we can see somebody that does manage to roll out of that. So it's definitely possible, it's just difficult. And we go ahead and scattershot them for the finish. They are stuck in the air without any iframes. Next up we have an opponent that really enjoys the patch 110 Sleep Bird, and we're going to go ahead and wave to them as they bum rush us. So fortunately we do take some damage in the process. We have some sleep buildup. We need to navigate our tabs, but we do get the bolus off, and we're gonna definitely look out for the sleep. It's not oppressive as it used to be. And then we'll go for our L2, and that's gonna do substantial amount of damage. We probably could have gotten the second shot off the regular light attack, and there we just straight up edgelord at them. We just stand there, wait for them to run in, and scatter shot throw our claws, and then edge walk away, because I mean, if there was ever a player to edge walk on, like definitely that one. Next up we have a player with a great katana, and I'm not sure, I think it's a beast claw in their offhand, so we'll need to be looking out for some weird sweeps across the floor. It's an interesting offhand weapon. I'll be curious to see how that works out in the future. I would be curious too to see it as a main hand with an offhand great katana, because no, that's not the case here, but I think you'd have some interesting just kind of movement potential where you could go for the fully charged heavy on the beast claws and then use the great katana maybe for just kind of random poise breaks. So we get in a decent amount of damage. We're doing a good job of just kind of avoiding their hits, and eventually we do get a running heavy, and we don't need the big combo, but it's nice to have. Next up we have actually another duel with 2 gifts, and again they're using the light greatsword. We're going to go ahead and see if we can get off their initial kind of like defense buff when they're at full health. So we get a nice jumping attack that does the trick. We go for some back swings, but they don't connect. They're using the wing stance Ash of War quite well. Just kind of, if I were to run in and go for a running heavy, they would punish me quite well with it. So I'm kind of aware of that strat at this time, so I'm definitely very cautious of it. We get a number of hits in with the claws, so I would say don't sleep on the claws. Like, the claws are fun. The Ash of War is great, and the true combo is great, as you can see there, but the claws are a lot of fun too. Next up, we're going to have a player, I believe we fought this player again as well, and they're going to be running the Mesmer Spear. We're going to go for some poise breaks. We're going to go for our R1-1 there, so try to get another poise break rather than go for a backswing, and that works out quite well. We do need to look out for their projectile, but we're going to back off a little bit, just reset to neutral again, and then see if we can run in and get some damage. And we do manage to run in and get some damage with a nice backstab, even though we also take damage, and we go for the scatter shot wake up, which comes out quite successfully. And yeah, that's going to cover this build. If you have any questions, definitely let me know, and I hope you have a good day.